Welcome to Rise and Shine Daily Business Tech Boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and break them down into bite-sized tips you can use right away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder. Rise and shine, it's your daily dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Topic number 347, we're going to be talking about backing up again and why it's so important. I know, I sound like a broken wheel, a broken record sometime, don't I? Got to do this. Guys, remember this. Backups are one of those things. Just honestly to yourselves, hands up. You don't have to put your hands up, but how many of you actually back up your data on a regular basis? How many of you have a formal backup process and a policy about how you back your data up, how you put it offsite, how you save it? Yeah. If I'm right, there's not many of you out there doing it. And look, I'm as guilty of that as anyone else. Backing up is, it's not sexy. It's time consuming and it can actually get a little bit expensive as well. So that's something we've all got to remember. But backups are absolutely essential. They can save your business in the event of a cyber attack or a system failure. Let me tell you a little story. And this goes back, several years ago, it'd be 2011, 2012, 2014 timeframe. I was working with an organization. They had a hosting provider. They had this entire system in place. It worked pretty well. And they had this little button that said backup. And they were told, all you need to do is hit this button and it backs your system up. So we had the backup and it was mailing the backup down to the user and they were saving it off to their computer. They thought they were doing the right thing. They were doing the right thing. Don't get me wrong. They were doing the right thing. They were doing exactly what they were told to do. And I'll come back to that. The hosting provider disappeared. The server went down. They lost their website. They lost everything. And my client said, "Oh, that's okay. We've got the backup. Let's restore it." So they sent it to me and I looked at it and went, "This is just the database. This is just the text file that has the text for your website. What it doesn't have for us is all of the images that you've uploaded, the videos, the audios, all of those are gone. They're all missing. That we don't have access to them." She hadn't kept copies of any of this, of course not, and why would you? Or if she had, they were sort of spread through various folders on her computer. We had to completely rebuild that website. We had to get all the data out, get the database restored, start to go through. So we're missing these images. Can you find these images on your website? We can't. We've got to replace them because you just have big black spots on your web page where the image should be. So what that really taught us was, yes, you can think you're backing up, but you might not be backing up the right thing. So having a good backup plan, a good backup policy, understanding everything that you need to back up and why you need to back it up is an important part of this process. That's where I would start. What are my systems? Where is the data stored? Why is it important? Does it need to be backed up? What happens if I lost this data? Is it catastrophic, or is it just something like, I can lose that. That's not a problem. That then gives you the scope of your risk, the risk assessment that you have on this, and you can work out what is important data, what is data that you can do without. You then need to decide where you want to store that data. Now, lots of people say to me, "Oh, we've got it stored in the cloud." That's fine. It's cool. We've got it stored in the cloud. And yep, there are some great backup solutions that take your data and put it up into the cloud. I am going to ask you though, once you have a catastrophic, that was still a good word, Charly, but catastrophic system failure, and you need to download that backup file. How big is the backup file? How long is it going to take you to download it before you can even start to restore it? I'm not saying that putting it in the cloud is a bad thing. It is just something, again, that needs to go into your planning, that you need to think about. How big is the backup file? How easy is it to restore a local device from the cloud when you've had a catastrophic failure? Think about that. What I do like to do, and I need to fix it up myself, is I have a little SSD hard drive, and I plug that in and I back up my system to my SSD hard drive. Now, it's a terabyte. I'm going to need a bigger one soon because I'm getting that much more data. But a terabyte will do for most of us, to be perfectly honest. I've identified which of my folder structures need to be replicated to that drive, and I literally replicate them from the computer to the drive. You need to determine the type of backup you want to do. Is it an incremental backup? Is it a full backup? Do you want to have copies of your system at a given snapshot in time? So you can say, this is no longer working. I need to restore it from here so that I can get access to this data that's been deleted. Or can it be a rolling backup, an incremental backup where, oh, this gets deleted, so I'm going to take that off of the backup and this will go on. This gets deleted, this will go on. Oh, I'm going to put all this stuff on, nothing's been deleted. Oh, we've just deleted an entire folder of stuff off of our hard drive. The next backup's going to delete that out of the backup, incremental backups, or however you want to say that. You need to decide the types of backups you want to have. A lot of people will just go with the incremental because they're easy and they're cheap. You just set the software to run and it just keeps everything synced up. The grandfathered the rotating backups to me, I'm just thinking I've got to be really, really careful. I like them. They just take up a lot of data because you are actually taking multiple copies of your backup and keeping them, and so you might do a daily backup and you'll keep 7 days of your daily backup, and then on day 8 it goes back and it rewrites day 1. So you can go back pretty much 7 days in your data and get it. At the end of the month, at the end of the week, sorry, got to get it right, daily, weekly, monthly. At the end of the week, it takes those 7 backups, it makes a backup of the 7 backups and puts that aside. So even if I'm on day 9 and I know that I had something there back on day 2 and that's been overwritten now because I've got day 9 happening, I can go back to the weekly backup and pull that out. Then you do a full monthly backup, and that takes the monthly snapshot and puts that aside. How many of those do you keep? Do you keep 7 days? Do you keep, how many weekly backups do you keep? How many monthly backups do you keep? You can imagine that each of those have a differing size, and the longer the interval, the longer the larger the backup file is going to be. So just things to think on is, how often do you need to back up? What type of backup do you need? What is the data you need to back up? I'm not going to tell you what tools to use for this one. There are any number of tools, and it really depends on the answers that you're giving to these questions as to how and what you use. Once you have all of that sorted out and you get this in place, make sure you have a testing regime available and do the testing regime. You need to go through a feigned failure and say, oh, my computer's failed. I need to back up the data. I need to restore the data. How do I do that? And go through and restore the data. Make sure that the backup process is working. Make sure that you have the data that you need to restore being restored. Make sure that the backups are actually working and usable. That's something that's tripped me up several times. Not so much in this business, but in other lives where we've got, that's okay, we've got a backup and we've pulled the backup and it's corrupted. something happened during the process and the backup corrupted and it saved the corrupted backup, and we go to use it, we cannot access it. It's corrupt. You kind of up the creek without a paddle at that point. And that's why testing is important, because testing will prove to you that those backups are working. It will identify when there's a problem and what that problem is. And that corruption that I mentioned, it was actually a corruption in the way it was being saved to the hard drive. The hard drive itself was faulty, and we had to replace the hard drive. Once we worked that out, everything worked perfectly. The other thing to think about, I spoke about having a physical device that you back up to. Having that physical device that you back up to and having it stored on site all the time is kind of dangerous. If your house burns down and you lose all the data on your computer because you've left your computer behind, if your backup device is right next to your computer, you've lost your backup device as well. That is one reason why cloud backups are actually a good thing to have. So I do both, by the way. I have a cloud backup, and I have a local backup. One way around that whole thing about the physical backup device is you have multiple ones. And we used to do this in another life. We would do a backup to, they were backup tapes at that point in time. So we'd put the cassette, not a physical cassette, it was a magnetic tape. We'd put it into the backup drive. The backups would run. We would take that backup device out, the tape out. We'd put it in a bag, and the last thing the office admin would do of a day is take that backup that had run and take it down to the post office and store it in the bank, store it in the vaults at the bank. So there would be 7 tapes in the bank at any one time, and then on day 8, when she took the 8th day tape down, she'd take tape 1 back, and that would then restart the backup process again. So storing offsite is really important, making sure you have a process of taking your physical backup devices and storing them somewhere else. I would also recommend that you unplug your backup devices from your computer once the backup is done. That way, if your computer ends up being compromised, and we spoke about ransomware attacks recently, but it's not just that. It's, someone can actually get access to your backups and delete your backups as well. That's a possibility. But if if it's not connected, if it's just sitting there and it's not on, people can't get access to it. So you can't encrypt the files. You can't do a ransomware attack on it. You can't delete them. You can't corrupt them. They're sitting there not connected to your computer. Alrighty, so backups is one of those things that you could talk for hours about. You could talk about all the things you need to think about. I am going to encourage you, as a little bit of homework, is to sit down, just get a piece of pen and paper if you want. If not, do it on a notepad on your computer. What's the data you have? How important is that to your business? What is the impact if you lose it? Where can you store it? And how quickly will you need that if something goes wrong? It's a good place to start. Then you can start looking at what your options are. All right, guys, do you have backups in place? Do you do backups? Do you just sort of hope and pray that you never, ever, ever have to worry about it? Let me know in the comments wherever you are watching or listening to this video. You can also come across to my locals community, askcharlyleetham.locals.com, and join the conversation there. You can send me a DM on any of our social media channels and I will respond. I might be a bit slow in responding to the social media, but I will respond, I promise. And if you could remember, guys, like this video, it does help get the content out there for other people to see. Subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you find out when I drop more content. Until tomorrow, be safe. We are going to be talking about malware attacks tomorrow. Be safe, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye. Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.